Hello and welcome to the Diabetes Handout. The way the presentation is organized is by bullet point. Each slide represents a medical study or lecture that I ran across some information that I thought would be helpful for my patients and put this together. The most recent or earliest slides in the presentation are not necessarily the most important thing, but rather just the most recent studies I read. So without further ado, we know that ginger has been studied in many studies. It has been helpful in reducing blood sugar. Taking a walk after dinner can lower the blood sugar spike by 30%. Many cultures around the world incorporate after meal walking, and it helps the digestion, helps to lower blood sugar. There's a trend on intermittent fasting or time-restricted feeding, and this needs to be done carefully. This study shows that eating only one meal per day leads to higher blood sugar as compared to eating 2 to 3 meals per day. This study shows that patients who have breakfast, essentially eating before 8:30 in the morning, have lower overall blood sugar. So if you're going to time restrict or intermittently fast and skip a meal, I would recommend skipping dinner, not breakfast. Noom is a helpful website or app that was developed by a psychologist and uses behavioral techniques to achieve control over obesity or diabetes, and has been very helpful for many of my patients. In the spirit of consuming a whole food, plant-forward diet, I generally recommend getting all nutrients through the diet, not necessarily a supplement. However, supplementation is better than none at all. I did put some good food sources of vitamin B6 there at the end, including brewer's yeast, whole grains, legumes, etc. My go-to website for nutrition information is nutritionfacts.org. I put a lot of stock into Dr. Michael Greger because, to my knowledge, he's the only person on the planet with a team of 200 retired physicians that actually read every nutrition study, over 100,000 of them that come out worldwide every year. So he's got the 30,000-foot view, and I think gives a lot of practical advice, and he's got a couple books there that I mentioned. Another study on chronobiology, the study of when you do things, matters. Making breakfast the biggest meal of the day as opposed to dinner can help reduce insulin levels and hyperglycemia and those blood sugar spikes. Interestingly enough, our bodies crave regularity. So I know anecdotally a lot of my shift workers or truck drivers or patients who have irregular schedules often have worsened metabolic conditions, and this study would support that. If you're interested in learning more about a plant-based diet, I'd recommend signing up for the Vegan Kickstart through the Physicians Committee for Responsible Medicine. I did this myself a few years ago and found it helpful. If you have only known cooking with animal products every day and have no idea what to do for a plant-based meal, this can be very helpful. It's completely free, and for 3 weeks you'll get a daily email with your shopping list, and here's what you're cooking for breakfast, lunch, dinner, snack, etc. And can just introduce you to some new ideas and some new recipes, and really serve as a springboard to a more plant-forward diet. Some people learn best by watching, and these are some entertaining and informative videos on Netflix. Third one would be the 4-part series called Cooked by the food journalist Michael Pollan from 2016, also on Netflix. For people who prefer YouTube or podcasting, this interview with Dr. Gemma Newman from 2019 was informative, using a plant-based diet to achieve control over diabetes. Or the Ian Kramer podcast. Dr. Diulis is a spinal surgeon who herself has type 1 diabetes, and she was having difficulty regulating her own blood sugar, and she created this novel plant-based ketogenic diet that really worked for her. As you know, I typically try to dissuade patients from the more typical ketogenic diet because it's high in animal products and saturated fat, and I really think it mortgages the future in exchange for quick weight loss. But after 6 months, other diets catch up in the weight loss category. So I just think it's unsustainable. However, this plant-based ketogenic diet seemed to really help her get her A1C less than 5, which is incredible for a type 1 diabetic. For the book readers, The Longevity Diet by Dr. Walter Longo, who's an Italian researcher who heads up the USC Center for Longevity and came in second for the Nobel Prize in Medicine for his work on human life extension. Chapter 8 of his book deals with using dietary approaches to control diabetes. He would probably endorse more of a pescatarian diet with a little bit of cheese as well. Time-restricted feeding is very trendy right now and has some good evidence behind it. The idea is to give your gut a rest. Don't be eating all the time and grazing all day. Most people find it achievable to consume all of their calories within a 12-hour window each day, for example, 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. I think probiotics are worth a shot. We're in the infancy of knowing how to prescribe them, but give it a 3 to 4 week trial, and here's a couple suggestions for you. And if you find that it is beneficial, continue. If not, you can try a different probiotic or just discard that idea. I endorse supplementation with high-dose vitamin D. It's really hard to harm yourself with a vitamin D supplement, so find a bottle at Costco or wherever you shop with a 4,000 to 5,000 unit capsule per day, and this will help to boost your immunity and help regulate your blood sugar. I think the Diet Coke experiment has failed. There are multiple studies showing that zero-calorie, artificially sweetened beverages or foods can often worsen the blood sugar control when compared to Coca-Cola or high fructose corn syrup or a sugary beverage. And part of the explanation for this is that the artificially sweetened beverages trick the brain. The brain senses getting something sweet but never gets that calorie hit that follows usually. And so the brain over the course of the day will cause you to subconsciously consume more calories. I would, first of all, give up any sweetened beverage, whether it's naturally or artificially sweetened, and focus on water or some of the sparkling drinks like LaCroix or Waterloo. But if you have to have a sweetened beverage as a treat now and then, I would skip the Diet Coke and just have a regular Coke. I love this study because it demonstrates that adding something to your diet will reduce your A1C. So much of what doctors say is do less of this and eliminate this thing that you love from your life. Well, adding beans lowers blood sugar. Beans are full of protein, fiber, cancer-killing anthocyanins, and a cup of beans a day over the course of 3 months lowered these patients' A1Cs by 0.5%, which is incredible. Again, a word on animal products in the diet. The high-fat animal diets can worsen blood sugar control, and part of this is that when we need to store our nutrients, we store the excess fat in our livers and muscles, and there's only so much room at the end. We also store sugar in our liver and muscles, and if they're already full of fat, there's no room for the sugar, and blood sugar levels go up, and this is the state of diabetes. There's a very interesting study on fasting done on Muslims during Ramadan at Baylor in Texas. And during the 30 days of fasting where they eat nothing from dawn until the sun sets. After the 30 days, certain proteins had been produced in their body that improved insulin resistance, showing that fasting does play a role in helping to regulate blood sugar. Back to chronobiology, consuming calories after 6 or 7 in the evening raises blood sugar. Check your products at home for a substance called carrageenan, which in theory sounds good. It's a derivative from Irish seaweed, and it's used as an emulsifier to thicken certain products, including ice cream and soy milk. So check the labels for carrageenan. It's associated with gastrointestinal problems and blood sugar issues. Inadequate sleep raises blood sugar. Omega-3 fatty acids are important for so many things, including blood sugar control. Dietary sources include cold water oily fish like salmon and mackerel, and you can also get it from walnuts, ground up flaxseed. You can also supplement. I recommend high dosages between 1,500 to 2,000 milligrams of omega-3s with each meal. Some of my patients really enjoy supplementation, and these are well-studied supplements that can improve blood sugar control. A teaspoon of cinnamon is an easy thing to incorporate into your daily regimen, mixed in with your coffee or your oatmeal or a smoothie. Indian gooseberry, also known as amla, has been studied, and in some studies gets results that are superior to medicines without a lot of side effects. You can purchase this at a local ethnic store or online. I purchased a $2 bag or a 2-pound bag on Amazon, and it's got a pleasant aroma, and I just throw it into my oatmeal. Winter squash, your pumpkins and other winter squash can be very good for blood sugar control. CoQ10 from green leafy vegetables is paramount for blood sugar control. And interestingly enough, getting sun exposure through your skin activates the CoQ10 from the green leafy vegetables, the byproducts of which are floating through your bloodstream. Healthy fats from olive oil, avocados, walnuts, these are good food sources that can help with blood sugar control. Just not only consuming fruits and vegetables, but a wider variety of fruits and vegetables, as opposed to just focusing on the 2 or 3 that you usually eat, can improve blood sugar control. Here's a follow-on study emphasizing that point. Rice is very healthy and can improve diabetic control as long as it's not white rice. Stay away from the white foods, the highly processed foods that are stripped of the bulk of their nutrients. So white rice I wouldn't recommend, but stick with the colored rice: brown, black, purple, red. Eliminating sweetened beverages, even artificially sweetened beverages, is so important for blood sugar control. Perhaps no greater intervention could be made on the American public than reducing consumption of sweetened beverages. Exercising and weight resistance training can improve diabetic control. It's important to have toned muscles, and this can help with sugar. Just standing up more. In this study, participants stood for an additional 2 hours where they otherwise would have been sitting, and they had lower blood sugar. A lot of studies are coming out on the benefits of standing up more. Oftentimes people have a device on their wrist or their phone that alerts them to stand up on a timed basis, and it works. Conversely, those who sit the longest, especially those who sit without any opportunity to stand up, and I'm thinking of bus drivers or truck drivers, they just have that further obstacle to overcome in regards to metabolic parameters. Vinegar, and it doesn't have to be apple cider vinegar. It can be malt vinegar, balsamic vinegar, hot sauce, mustard. These all contain vinegar, which helps with blood sugar control. Another study out of Arizona State on the benefits of apple cider vinegar. And yet another study showing how it blunts the blood sugar spike after a meal by 20%. Certain breads are, this may be news to a lot of people, beneficial for blood sugar as long as they're prepared in the traditional way and not heavily processed. I'm thinking of traditional sourdough, rye, pumpernickel breads. I would advise purchasing local bread made fresh without a lot of preservatives. This study, I believe out of Sweden, showed that participants consuming bread made from whole grain barley had lower blood sugar. Fiber is one of the more important things you could do to achieve control over your blood sugar. I generally recommend a ceiling of 40 grams per day. Our ancestors often got greater than 100 grams of fiber every day. Fiber is the non-digestible by us constituent of the plant cell wall, so we need to eat more plants, a plant-forward diet. This will help with our blood sugar. Yet again, a study showing that whole grain diets, and carb has unfortunately become a four-letter word in our culture. You must understand that carbohydrates are not all created equal. A simple carbohydrate, highly processed, is obviously not good for you. These are Twinkies and cookies and crackers and cakes. However, a complex carbohydrate, i.e. a plant, a floret of broccoli is largely carbohydrate and one of the more healthier things you can eat. More research and evidence that ground up flaxseed, full of fiber, protein, and omega-3 fatty acids, is beneficial for blood sugar. Interestingly enough, you want to check your mouthwash and make sure it's alcohol-free. Alcohol can alter the makeup of species in your mouth, and you want to cultivate a healthy oral microbiota, and this will help your blood sugar. Coffee's good for you as long as you don't overdo it and don't adulterate it with cream and sugar. Maitake mushrooms are good to include in stir fries or other areas of your diet. More evidence that standing up and sitting less can help with blood sugar control. Magnesium is a mineral important for sugar control, and you can find this in foods like spinach, tofu, almonds, etc. The good people of Syracuse University got funding to study how a vacation impacts your blood sugar. It's good for you, probably because de-stressing reduces cortisol, which is a hormone that raises your blood sugar in preparation to fight lions or flee. Back to the oral flora, we know that having and cultivating a healthy oral flora reduces blood pressure, reduces stroke risk, and helps with A1C reduction. Important to do a pantry cleanse. This is often my parting word to a patient as they leave my exam room. If you're feeling motivated today, probably the first thing to do when you get home is eliminate any food that is not going to help you achieve your goals. Do a pantry cleanse. Don't give it to somebody else either. Just throw it away. And if it's not in the house, you're not going to eat it. Back to chronobiology, eating after 6 or 7 p.m. in any significant degree increases blood sugar. These two guys are both PhDs who each have type 1 diabetes, and they invented a plant-forward diet, each independently for themselves, and then they found each other online and joined forces and created a program called Mastering Diabetes. They have a website and a book, and you can find them on YouTube being interviewed on various platforms. It, in a way, is a very liberating diet because it is an all-you-can-eat plant-based diet, and they make a point of it. It's almost in a mocking style how they can eat as much as they want of any fruit or vegetable or bean, and they lose weight. Their A1C looks great. One of these guys makes a point to eat like 12 bananas a day just to show that his blood sugar is not affected because he eats a plant-forward diet. This is an interesting study. Compared to the exact same meal eaten in a different order, if you eat your vegetables first, it decreases the insulin spikes after the meal. Very interesting. This seems like a simple switch that we can all make. Eat your veggies first. And then the second meal effect. Beans and other related foods like chickpeas are so effective at lowering your A1C because they not only blunt your insulin spike after that meal, that effect continues for almost half of the day. So try to have some form of a bean at every meal. Okay, this concludes the diabetes presentation. I hope this was helpful. I hope it was empowering, and good luck. If you have questions, feel free to message me through the portal or call the office and we can set up a visit in the office or by telemedicine. Take care and best of luck.